Hey everyone, we have an exciting live stream today. We're all going to learn about AWS's Amplify, which I keep hearing on social, mostly from Ali Spittle, who you probably know. But today we have Matt with us. There's a link to Matt's Twitter or GitHub, I can't remember which one, in the description below, but I'll share some more in the chat as well. Matt is just sharing their screen and getting all that sorted. So I'm going to talk for a moment longer before we do an intro to Matt. The plan for today is we've got a React app. And we're going to deploy on AWS Amplify. We're going to answer all your questions, and Matt's going to teach me and teach all of you. So we're going to all learn together. Great to have so many people here. We got RK, Abhishek, Guy, loads of people, and obviously Matt as well. So Matt, is this perfect timing? Are you ready to give yourself an intro and a shout out?
I think so. Yeah. Can everyone hear me? I guess
good.
so. So hey everyone. I'm Matt. I work on the AWS Amplify team. I've been on the team for about 2 years now. I've mostly been focused on our open source community. So I know you mentioned Ali. So she focuses kind of on our developer community and everyone who's using Amplify. But I've been kind of in this unique role to really build out our open source program and open source development. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to do a quick demo of what Amplify is, and then I'd also like to talk about how folks can get involved to actually contribute to Amplify because it is all open source.
Yes, so we're really keen to get everyone to open source on this channel, which I'm super excited about. So hopefully we get some green squares for all of you today, and also a bigger program that you can get involved with at AWS, which always looks great on your resume to have those sorts of things. And as I always say, contribution is not just about code, it's about adding value. So yes, lots of more people coming in the chat and saying hi, so that's good. Numbers I see climbing, so we are gonna get started. So we've got a few things to cover today. Any questions, do ask in the chat. And of course, follow Matt on GitHub and Twitter and all that awesome social platforms. So Matt, I'm gonna hand over to you. Let me know when you're ready, and I'm gonna do a quick tweet on the socials. So if you're ready, I can bring your screen up. Let me know.
Yeah, my screen's ready. If you want to send that tweet, I can retweet it from.
Yeah, I'll send it. I'll give you
okay.
That'd be perfect. I'll give you a shout in a moment when I've tweeted it, and I'll send you a link in the chat on StreamYard.
Okay,
so yeah, please go ahead with Amplify. So what is it? Like, what is this great Amplify that everyone talks about?
Yeah, I guess I'm curious in the chat, if folks watching have heard of Amplify. Essentially, Amplify is several things. We used to sort of say it's a framework, so it's a set of libraries that you can sort of plug into your app. It's a tool chain to allow you to develop on AWS, and then it's also a hosting service. But in the last year or two, it's kind of grown. So now I say it's several things. We also have a UI library. We have something called Amplify Studio, which makes it really easy for developers to build essentially like UI components. So that was just launched at reInvent. For today, though, we'll focus mostly on our libraries as well as the CLI and hosting. So the libraries, again, allows you to really easily plug and play like different aspects of AWS. So you can add authentication easily. You can add storage, you can add APIs, you can add data store, you can add like maps. And all these sort of features are different AWS services under the hood. So a lot of times developers will say, well, AWS is so complicated, there's so much to it. Amplify is aimed at making it really easy for those developers to get started. You don't have to understand what S3 is or what EC2 is or Cognito or any of these services, because Amplify sort of abstracts that and provides you with these open source libraries. So if we look on like GitHub, for example, type in AWS Amplify, all of our libraries are open sourced. So Amplify is supported for JS, for iOS, for Android, for Flutter now. And even with JavaScript, we have all sorts of frameworks. You can use React, Vue, Next, Angular, vanilla JavaScript. I feel like I'm forgetting one. Ionic. Yeah, all sorts of things. Everything moves so quickly. So there's definitely a lot of ways to use Amplify. So yeah, I think I'll talk a bit more about sort of the open source side of things maybe after the demo.
Okay.
So maybe we'll just focus on Amplify. So what's cool also about Amplify is if you're building an app, you don't have to use all of it. So like if you just want to host your app, if you just want to deploy your app to AWS, you could just deploy it. You don't have to use, like, let's say you want to use Auth 0 for authentication, you can do that. If you don't want to use Auth 0 and you want to use our authentication service, you can. So it's very like plug and play. So I guess with that, why don't I get started with our app? We're going to build a really lightweight sort of to-do app, which, I know is kind of the common like hello world app these days. So I'll post a link if anyone wants to follow along. I'd recommend doing that, and then you can ask me questions if you sort of get stuck.
You might not be able to post a link
Oh,
into YouTube, but there's a
here, I'll
private
send
chat
it
in
to you.
StreamYard,
Okay.
and I'll share it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I literally just, if you Google Amplify getting started. So these are all the different frameworks we support. So I'm just going to stick to React. I think it will be fairly straightforward.
Perfect.
So I'm going to click Start Tutorial just so everyone can kind of follow along. So the first part of using Amplify, of course, is installing the CLI. And the CLI is the tool chain I mentioned that makes it really easy to sort of build with Amplify. So you don't need to go into the UI. You don't need to log into the console. You can do everything from the command line. So I sort of started with this like demo folder. So I can
Sorry, Matt, can I interrupt? Can you zoom
yes.
in on the
Oh
browser and
yes.
the terminal? It's quite small, I
Yes.
think.
I have
I
not
want everyone to think in the chat. Let me know.
yeah, I have not streamed in a while, so I kind of forgot the important parts like that. Okay, hopefully everyone can see me, and yeah, if you have questions, please let us know. So if you're following along, you'll want to start with, so we give two options. So the first part here would just be configuring Amplify, so running Amplify configure. This essentially is going to try to connect your local environment with an AWS account. So I've actually already done this, but here, if I copy that command, it should just let me pick which profile I want to use. Let's see. This usually doesn't take this long.
Guy, hopefully that's a bit bigger
Yeah.
for you. If you need it bigger still, let us know. And Matt is probably on like a 49-inch 20K TV or something. So
I'm not. Okay, I don't know why Amplify configure wouldn't run, but you'll have to take my word for it. Essentially, if you follow those steps, it will just connect to my AWS account. So let's get started with kind of the first step. So like any good demo, we'll start with a basic React app. I'll call it something different though. I'll just say
I'm
React.
almost done with this tweet as well.
Okay, cool. So this is just building the basic React app that everyone has seen probably 100 times. Yeah, there'll be some downtime in this demo, so while things are installing and building. So if anyone has questions.
Yes, I love questions. Everyone do put it in the chat. Let us know what projects you're building as well. So we're interested to know. We can maybe ask what projects you're building and how they could be hosted in AWS Amplify.
Yeah.
So I'm quite interested to know. So after I see this example, I do have some questions lined up from Matt.
Cool.
But we can answer your questions as we go along.
I think my computer's moving extremely slowly. So this will be interesting.
It looks like you're running Mac. Okay.
Yeah, I'm running Mac. I have this sort of CPU indicator, and it looks like it's maxed out.
It's working hard to keep it warm. It's cold in New York, right?
It is cold. Yeah. Yeah, I guess screen sharing, video, all these things, but yeah, this is pretty slow.
Okay.
Luckily, this is, I think, most of it is going to be happening on the AWS side, so it shouldn't be too bad. But this is kind of weird.
No problem. We can chat to people. So, what projects is everyone working on? Hopefully, they're open source projects. And who wants some green squares today to get involved in some open source projects? So we do have the AWS. Is it called AWS's open source program? Have I named that right? That's what I put in the tweet.
Yeah. Right. So actually, on our doc site. Oh, you know what? I should open a new page. We're calling it the Amplify contributor program bash. Yeah, I would say AWS is probably too general. So
Okay,
we
my
have
bad. My
yeah,
tweet might not be so great.
it's okay. We have the contributor. So on our docs page, we actually added this contribute button pretty recently. So if you click contribute, this is the new landing page for contributing to Amplify. So
Nice.
this is one of the things I actually wanted to talk about. Maybe we could talk about it now since this is taking a while. But
Sure.
if you're working on an open source project, it's obviously critical to have a contributor file in GitHub. But I think something that I think is helpful is to actually build your own landing page outside of GitHub for contributors. And that's something we've done. So we sort of have a page here where we sort of talk through how it works, what is our program, um, how do you get involved. We sort of have easy, low hanging fruit issues organized. So if you're totally new to Amplify and you want to get started, I would check with these issues. We've sort of gone through and handpicked these issues that should sort of be more ideal for someone to get started. And then we sort of thank all of our contributors at the bottom here. Geez, my computer is really struggling today. Yeah,
No worries.
so yeah. So here's all the photos of all our contributors. So if you
Nice.
contribute, ideally this page is like multiple scrolls of all sorts of people. Um, but yeah, so here's all our contributors. And then if you want to get started, we have a getting started guide, which is also a good recommendation. If you're working on an open source project, you should build your own, like how do you clone the repo? How do you get started? So we have screenshots. So ideally within like 10 minutes, you can clone one of our repos and you can get started. And then we have all these resources, right? So like, how can you get help? So we have a Discord server. Um, we have office hours every single Thursday. We have office hours. It's open to everyone if you
Nice.
have questions about the product or you want to contribute. And I think that's been really critical. So
We actually
anyway,
have some
that's yeah,
questions as well. No, just on a quick note, while your computer still seems to still be running in the background.
yeah.
So Abhishek asks, what prerequisites are required to contribute to Amplify in terms of programming languages? So what tech do you use, I suppose?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, with Amplify, what's cool is we support a ton of library or like a ton of libraries. So if you're familiar with iOS, we have an iOS library. If you're familiar with, Java, we have an Android library. We have JavaScript. So really most languages, but I would say like JavaScript, Python, yeah, Objective C, Swift, sort of all
That's
the main
good.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a good variety of choice. By the way, I've just sent you in the private chat the tweet I just made of going
Okay.
live now. So
Cool. I'm excited for that.
So Abhishek, get started in contributing. I'm looking forward to having a look at that as well. Hopefully we can find some green squares for people later on. As Matt said, there are some good first issues
Yes.
in those as well. So that would be good. Who doesn't want green squares? Absolutely right. I agree. Amplifier contributor bash 2022. Is that a thing or has that just been invented?
It's just been invented.
Oh, okay.
Very casual, yeah. Um it's not very official. We are giving a $25 gift certificate to AWS, like a credit, I should say.
Okay.
Okay, I think I just retweeted that.
Hey, Sabrina. Nice to have you here.
So if you make a contribution, including just a docs change, we will give you a credit to AWS. So your AWS bill could probably be covered for like 2 years with that credit if you're using Amplify.
Nice.
So
Also, Amplify is really cost effective. If you talk about when we get time, if this is still building, we should talk about pricing. How does it work? Because in the past, I've done VMs, and you might host one app on the VM. Or what's the other thing I did? AWS, is it apps or something?
EC2, Beanstalk.
Beanstalk, I think that's the one. Yes, where you kind of host an app. It's like I can't remember what it is, like $10 a month or something. But when you've got 10 apps, now you're paying kind of $100 a month, even if the apps are not really doing very much. So it'd be interesting to know, how
Yes, we
Amplify
can
the
get into
pricing
the
works.
pricing.
Nice.
I can get into that. Okay, our app did finally build. So we can sort of, I guess now we have to install all the libraries. This is just a lot of programming, huh? Waiting around.
Googling and waiting around.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we will get there. Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize the strain of sort of video and screen sharing, but it's okay. So like I said, we're just sort of cloning. If you just joined, we're just sort of cloning a basic React app, and I'm gonna run it. And then from there, we will add authentication to it. We'll add a basic API, and then we'll host it on Amplify. And if you know Vue better, for example, you could follow along with Vue if you want to use Angular or Next.
Nice. And then I have questions about how we can get extra services like a database. Do we have to then go to a different AWS service, or can it all be done via Amplify and things like that?
Yeah, those are great questions. I think let's see if I can get this first part started.
Sure. No worries. Ready to learn.
Yeah,
I've been using
yeah,
Kubernetes more, but databases become a bit more tricky on Kubernetes. So I'm interested to know if
yeah.
Amplify can
I've
make
not
this easier.
I've not used a ton. I've not used Kubernetes a ton. It's funny. I've seen a lot of memes on Twitter that there's like 10 different ways to run Kubernetes on AWS, or containers, I should say.
Yeah, I love the managed services on DigitalOcean
Yeah.
and AWS and stuff. Like it costs a bit more, but it's just worth it because I don't have to worry about managing it all. Okay.
How fun. But yeah, so essentially what we're going to add is first we will initialize Amplify, and then after that we will add an API. So that's kind of the next step. I think after this basic install, it should go a lot faster.
Well, it's a live stream. It wouldn't really be a live
I
stream
know,
if it didn't
yeah,
go wrong. So
exactly.
we're good.
I didn't know. It's funny. I have a PC. Next time I will use that for camera, and I'll just. I think we're almost there.
We'll be good. We can keep chatting to everybody.
Yeah.
We're here for Q&A. Everyone, if you have questions about AWS, DevRel, Matt's a DevRel for AWS.
Yeah.
Freelancing, I can try and answer on that, or career, Matt can help on that side, and I can try and help too as well. Let us know. We are across the world at the moment. Matt's in New York, and I'm in Bali. So we have about, I think, probably 12 hours between us in time zones.
Yeah, what time is it there?
For you?
Yeah, it's 10 a.m.
Yeah, it's 10 p.m. for me. So.
Okay, so this has finally installed. So what we want to do now is initialize Amplify in this project. So if we type Amplify init, geez. This is like shockingly slow. I don't know. Should almost get a different computer. It's funny. This is like a pretty new. This is like a pretty new computer. I don't know why.
Is it the M1?
No, it's not the M1. But I mean, this should have no problem. Yeah, I don't know if I have a.
I know that like StreamYard and those sorts of things do kind of a bit of a.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it would.
A hog.
I didn't realize it would be this drastic.
Hopefully, we're almost there, and we can maybe answer some of these questions.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Sabrina, great to see that you're back. Praduma saying AWS is amazing. Yeah, it has so many features. Every time I look at it, there's new features. It is crazy, which is why I'm really glad to learn about Amplify, because I'm hoping it simplifies that. Hey, Mikey, how you doing? Rajiv, I did reply. I'm just going to say out here as well for others who might miss it. How much Kubernetes knowledge do I need before contributing to open source? Absolutely none. I mean, people say you do. People say you need to be an expert in X, Y, and Z. You don't need to be an expert in anything. Just get involved in open source. Trust me, it'll be super beneficial. And Mikey, good to have you here. Oh, it's still going. Okay.
Yes, I did. It made some progress. Essentially, It just sort of asked about our environment. So this is a React app. It wants to know what editor I'm using, different build commands. Now what it's going to do is it's going to replicate this on the AWS side and sort of set up some templates for us.
Okay.
But yeah, this is definitely slow. Okay. So I'm going to use, it's asking essentially, how do I want to authenticate? So I have a profile called Amplify that's hooked up to my AWS account. So now, just like it's saying, it's sort of building this in the AWS console. So this now is totally on the Amplify side. So it's setting up like permissions. It's setting up S3 bucket to actually save the code and all of that. So we'll give that a minute or two.
Getting some great feedback already. Rajiv, hopefully I pronounced your name right. Thank you so much.
And then what I'll do is in another tab, I'll go to Documents, Amplify, Demos. I'll just run the basic app so everyone can kind of see that.
Be the font still large enough for everybody? Do you need us to make it any bigger?
Yes,
or is that
can
okay?
everyone see?
Let us know. Everyone's on different devices. I think for mobile, it will be small. We probably can't solve it for that, but hopefully for computer monitors, it's okay.
Okay, so we've just initialized Amplify. So now the tool chain, so the CLI is essentially telling us a few different options. So they're saying you can add different categories. So you could literally type Amplify add authentication and add authentication to your app. You could do Amplify add API. It will add an API backend. And as a front-end developer, if you're not super familiar with authentication, Amplify is going to make that super simple for you. So the first thing we're going to do here is add the Amplify UI library. So this is a specific sort of set of packages for Amplify and React.
Okay, this is getting interesting. Okay.
Yes, and then we'll finally get, this is supposed to take about 5 minutes in total, but my computer's drained by StreamYard, it seems. And then essentially, so let me open the app also in VS Code. So this was the one I was working on yesterday. Okay, so this is our demo. So in our main index file,
your poor computer.
I know.
This as well.
This is crazy. Yeah, I did not expect this. Okay, so our main index file, we're gonna add a few other imports. So this is just sort of necessary for Amplify here. So we're actually going to import the Amplify library, and then there's this concept of AWS exports. That's essentially a configuration file that you don't really need to think too much about. It will just sort of have different information around, like if you're using authentication, it'll have information around your Cognito profile, and Cognito is an authentication service, part of AWS. So like I was saying, you don't really need to be aware of kind of the nitty gritty. Amplify will make that really simple for you.
Nice. Sorry, Matt, could you make the VS Code bigger as well?
Yes. Okay, so now we are going to finally add an API to our app. So if everyone saw, I have the app running here. Oh, that's because it's still installing.
I was still installing it, yeah.
Yeah.
You might need to restart the app as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just installing AWS Amplify and the React library. So after I npm install both of those, it will have Amplify in this app. Geez.
It's okay. We can answer more questions.
Yeah.
Everyone, while this is loading, what other questions do you have for you? I think nobody has any questions because they've got everything figured out.
They've barely seen everything.
And everything is sorted. And, they're probably on their yacht or private jet, flying at the moment. They don't have any questions for us.
Yeah.
If anyone does have any challenges at the moment, maybe we could help with while this is installing, let us know. And we'll be keen to help and share our experiences. That's what we're here for, to try and help and share knowledge. So while you're also writing your questions in the chat, I'm going to get Matt's Twitter and share it in the chat as well. There we go. Let me do that before I forget.
I will send this to Amazon so that they get me a new computer.
Yes, tell them this is not good.
Yeah, it's not.
Not good for live demos. It's not looking good for Amplify, although it's not Amplify's fault, but it's not looking, it's that whole perception, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So AWS, if you're watching, Matt needs
I
a
need a new
super
computer.
duper M4, super duper Pro Max, supercharged with whatever the fancy words are. Definitely.
Yeah,
oh,
this
a
is
repo
crazy.
link. So Matt, if you're able to, could you send me the repo link in the private chat, and I'll share
Well,
it
you know
in
what?
the
I
public
actually
chat.
didn't. I haven't pushed this to a repo yet. I think I'll do that at the end. I'm just gonna
Oh,
put in
okay,
the.
yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna put in the tutorial. And by the way, if you Google though AWS Amplify GitHub, I'm sure there's tons of sort of starter projects.
Yeah, there must be a few. We'll add one to the list of ones that are available
Yeah,
as well.
trying to figure out. I guess it's Chrome. Yeah, StreamYard.
Chrome needs like a whole M2 processor itself.
It does. Okay, we're more than halfway there. We're gonna add the API in a second.
More people joining. Hey, Ayush, everyone, don't forget to say hi in chat. Any questions, do let us know. For anyone who has joined, we're building a React app, which is going to have an API, and
Very
it's going to be
shortly.
hosted very soon once it finishes installing. And it's going to be hosted on AWS Amplify, which really simplifies the process, because if anything like me, AWS it can be quite scary. You try and figure out what service you need, you figure out how to use it. The next time you log in, there's like 10 more services available. Should you change? Should you not? So that's great, but can be quite daunting as well.
Exactly.
So this makes it a lot simpler. And I didn't realize Amplify did so much. So in
Yeah.
terms of the authentication with Cognito, because I have a love-hate relationship with Cognito. So this is actually going to
Cognito's
be
tough.
it's really powerful, but then sometimes you just want to do something really quickly, but it's like all these options and so on.
Exactly.
So this could be really, really interesting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure after this we are done installing things. So
Okay.
I think after this it should be a little smoother. But yes, this gives you time to catch up. If you just want to create a React app and install Amplify, you could catch exactly to where I am. So I think there's a lot of libraries.
It's all good.
Yeah.
And do you want to talk about while it's still going? Did you want to talk about the program at all again, as people might have joined?
Yeah. So in
The open
case you've
source
joined,
program.
so also Amplify is an open source project as well. So we have several libraries that are open source. All of our repos are on GitHub. And like I was saying, we sort of support multiple libraries and frameworks. So if you're a mobile developer, we have a mobile offering. We have an offering on Flutter now. If you want to just contribute to our core sort of JavaScript library, you can as well. And we have this contributor page. So it kind of talks through how you can contribute, why you might want to contribute, as well as sort of where to get started. So we have these good first issues that we have sort of handpicked, and they should be more straightforward. And we have a getting started guide. So this would be sort of the best way to clone the repo and try to contribute. And we have office hours every Thursday in our Discord server. So if you want to talk about a PR you're working on, or you need help with Amplify, that's sort of the best place to get help. As well as we do have a Discord just for general help when we're not in office hours. And that makes it really easy to get help.
Big office hours is like really cool. It's becoming very popular, and I think it's really, really interesting.
Yep. So it's definitely, I'd say, it depends. If you're new to AWS, Amplify should make it a lot easier. If you've used AWS before, I think what's cool about Amplify is we're trying to offer a lot that, I don't think traditionally AWS has sort of been involved with. So like we have a Discord server. We're the first service to have a Discord server. We have office hours weekly. I think some services have some notion of that, but I think ours is really consistent, and it's neat that it's in Discord. We're open source. We're on GitHub. So we're definitely trying to do things differently. Okay, it looks like this is at the end here. Okay, cool.
Okay, Matt, if you don't mind, I'm just going to interrupt for a second just to answer Sabrina's question. So Sabrina is saying that she's worked with Mongo and React. So let's just maybe, just in case anyone else, and I'm sure others are maybe a bit confused as well if they've joined a bit later. into what Amplify is for. So Amplify, and I'm gonna try this. Let me see if I've
Yes,
understood
let's
this
see.
correctly. So Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. I should have read the docs before we started this live stream. Damn it. But it's for hosting. So if you build something locally, it could be with React or Vue or Angular, whatever it is. You build something locally, and you want to host it on AWS. Then you can host it manually, and you want to use their authentication with Cognito. We want to use other bits and pieces. My understanding is Amplify gives you a level of abstraction to get all the great AWS services, but it makes it a lot more straightforward. Is that my correct understanding,
Yes.
Matt?
Yeah, it's several things. So if you have a front end app, just a basic front end app, or even a complex front end app, but if you have a front end app, you can host it on AWS. So right now, or before Amplify, if you had, let's say, a React app, you would probably just host it on S3, which is
Yeah.
the storage service. You might put it in front of CloudFront, and that's the CDN. And anytime you update code, you might use some sort of like tool that you wrote to sort of push to S3, or
Yes.
you might manually like upload a zip file. What Amplify has done is added a ton of like bells and whistles. So you can connect your GitHub repo actually with Amplify. Anytime you merge, it will build and it will deploy it for you. It will set up S3. It will set up Cognito. It will set everything up for you.
That
So
is awesome.
so this finally loaded. So now I was saying you can type amplify add and you can add the different categories. So we're going to add an API. So essentially it should ask us some questions around how we want to set up this API. So, geez.
And so just to clarify, the API that we're adding, is that going to be another app that you're going to build, or an API that is an example API, or like, can you guys
Right.
clarify?
So what it's going to do is it is going to set up all of sort of the DevOps aspects of an API. And Amplify is definitely opinionated. So its kind of suggested route is to use GraphQL. I am not an expert on GraphQL, but I have been using it more lately, and it does make it a lot easier. I think if you haven't created your own API, it kind of handles like all the routing, and it does a lot for you. Um, so just real quick, so it's asking us now, do we want to create a GraphQL API or a REST API? So for this example, I think GraphQL is going to make it a lot easier. I guess let me know in the chat sort of if you've used GraphQL or not.
I've played with it very briefly a while back. It's something that I should look into. I know there's
Yeah.
some great tools where you can have a REST and a GraphQL API, and it kind of manages the translation for you. I have a question, Matt. So with this API, GraphQL API, where do we put our API logic? Like, say we want to, I don't know, have a list of users from somewhere. Like, would that be another app that we built and deployed to Amplify, or how is that working?
Well, so we would actually, so it's asking me if I want to edit the schema. So let's take a look at that.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell it to open it up. So this is the schema. So if I wanted to have a model of users, a model is sort of, you can think about a database. I'm going to have a table now called to-dos. Each to-do is going to have an ID, it's going to have a name, and it's going to have a description. So I could create another model called users and kind of, add different characteristics about them. But we'll actually get into the user management part in 1 second because we're going to add authentication.
Yes.
But anyway, so this app's going to be really simple. We're going to have different to-dos here. We're going to let the users give us a name and a description. And then right now what we need to do is, so we've created this API. So now Amplify is telling us that we need to actually push it into the cloud to build cloud resources for this. So locally we have the API if we want to run it, but I'm going to run Amplify push. And Amplify push is going to go into AWS and it is going to create a hosted GraphQL instance. It's going to give me an endpoint for GraphQL that I can call over the internet. And if folks are familiar with AWS, the service for hosted GraphQL is called AppSync. So it's using AppSync under the hood. But again, you don't really even need to know that for Amplify. So this is now going to build this in our AWS account for us. And then we will be able to, I think at this point we should be able to play with it. Yeah,
Okay.
so here's our basic React app. This is like the hello world instance. So while that's running, I'm going to update our front end code so that it actually has UI components so that we can enter these fields and then we can actually save it in the UI. So this is all in the app.js. So this is sort of the basic app that you see. You see the cycling logo here. So I'm just going to copy and paste it, but I'll sort of talk through what has actually changed. And then I can see, okay, so it's fetching these resources in the cloud. So now Amplify is asking us, are we sure we want to build these things? So it's saying, do you want to continue adding an API category? So the answer is yes. You want to generate code for your newly created GraphQL API. So we'll say yes. You want to use JavaScript. This is going to put our GraphQL queries, mutations, and subscriptions. If you're new to GraphQL, this is essentially a query is like, how do you like pull the data? A mutation would be changing it. So if we want to add a to-do, it's going to have logic for us to add a to-do. And then a subscription is essentially you can be alerted when different things sort of happen, if that makes sense. So like when a new to-do is available, we can have React like re-render. So this will just take a few seconds. This is essentially just building all these resources in AWS. Even on a fast computer, this takes a little bit of time. And now if you look at my application code, so let's see what I've added. So we are implementing a function called create to do. And again, that's a mutation because it's going to mutate the data. And this is something that Amplify has created for us. So we could actually go into the GraphQL folder and see the code that Amplify has generated. Where is that? So level up. Does anybody see?
Can you click on? Can you just click on the import? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. I always. What command does that? Command B.
I just use
Go to definition.
command. Yeah. Or maybe the bit. Yeah, you should just go to it, or even the path on the right might work. I use command and then just click on it with the keyboard. Yeah. Interesting. Doesn't like you. The other thing you could do is do command P.
Oh, right, and just search for mutations.
And type mutations, and it brings up the files that match it. Oh, no, nothing.
Maybe, well, no, we just generated it.
But it says it's in the path, so if it's in the same folder we're in now, so app.js is in the same folder in GraphQL queries.
It should just be a level. Yeah, it's in the same one. Yeah. Maybe I need to give it a second.
Yeah, your computer is struggling at the moment, so it might need a moment.
Yes, we can give it a second. But this is our schema.
I'm with you on that, Sabrina. We should maybe do that on a Discord call or something.
Here it is.
So, you found it?
Yes, I found it.
Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so this, and again, this is all generated for you. So you are not supposed to sort of edit this, but it gives you code to basically create, update, and delete any type of object. So if you're making a recipe book, you could have recipes. It will give you the code to sort of do the basic operations. Okay, it looks like it's done. So like I said, Amplify has built this AppSync, it's built this GraphQL instance in AWS. It's given us an endpoint. So that's not the right way to interact with it, but and it's given us this API key. So now what we're going to do is rerun the app. So just like that, we now have a place to add a name and a description. So I could say like learn more open source, and the description can be like read about Amplify. So if I hit create to do, it is going to create a GraphQL call in AWS, and now you can see it's just updated. So after this demo, after I host it, I can share it with everyone, and we should all be able to sort of edit the same to-do app. So that's the basic adding a to-do. Now let's add authentication. So adding authentication is, again, we're going to use the same Amplify add. We're going to do add auth this time. And what's cool about Amplify auth, you could do sign in with Google, you could do sign in with Facebook, you can have your own like username system. And this one should be pretty simple. And then we'll edit the UI, and then we should finally be able to deploy it. And then everyone should be able to use the app, which should be cool.
So yeah, it's gonna be live on the internet, which I think is awesome because a lot
Yes,
of people, the amount of people that say I have built something, I'm pretty proud of it, but no one can see it because it's on my local
exactly.
host only. So this way, you're getting it
This
live
makes
really
it
quickly.
a lot easier. So now Amplify is asking us, how do you want users to sign in? Do you want to use a username? Do you want to use an email, a phone number? I'll just click a username. You can do all sorts of advanced settings. You could do like an SMS to get a code to verify them. You can build your own logic. You can customize an email that gets sent. But I'm just going to sort of do the basic settings for this. And then from here, it should start creating the Cognito resources. By the way, how are we on time? Are we stopping at this hour or?
We can go off a bit longer. So I
Okay.
planned an hour and a
Okay.
half, so we're about
Okay.
halfway through.
Cool. Okay. We might need, yeah, I thought this was going to take 20 minutes, but things are a little slower. But we're almost done. We're going to add authentication. Okay. So it just created our auth setup locally. I'm now going to type amplify push. And again, amplify push means that it is going to build these resources in AWS for us. So it's going to use the underlying services that you don't even need to learn about, which is Cognito.
AWS Cognito, exactly.
Yeah,
Just had a question on
Incognito.
that as well, so it's perfect.
Yeah. So that it is using Cognito. So you could use Cognito outside of Amplify, but Amplify makes it a lot easier. And it also gives you something called a hosted UI component, which I think have become increasingly popular. I used to use Auth0 a lot. Auth0 gives you code that you can copy and paste, and you can get a UI component for login, which we're actually going to get right now. So let's go and add the login UI. So we're going to go back to our app.javascript where we have the logic for our to-do. We're going to add two imports. We're going to import Authenticator, which is Amplify's authentication library. And then we're also going to add just sort of a style sheet to sort of make the login interface look nice. So now we're going to use a higher order component. So we're going to wrap our logic that we return in an authentication. So I will just kind of copy and paste. I guess actually I will copy and paste all of it.
That's what we do as developers, you know.
Yeah.
Come on. People who say I write every line, I use Copilot
Yeah.
like so much, so it's kind of like a copy and paste. But I don't say I copy and paste. I just use the tab key, but it's practically copy and paste. So absolutely. I do have a question about these services. What happens if I'm developing offline? Can I develop the app locally? Kind of, I can run it all locally. I don't need an internet connection to do the authentication and stuff, or do I?
So if you're signing in with like Google or Facebook, you would. If you're
Sure, yeah.
using our basic like our basic auth, you don't. You can
Okay.
do it locally, and you'll see that. And with the API, that's a great question. You'll need to run this command, and I can show you everyone, called amplify mock. Amplify mock
Okay.
is going to set up a basically a GraphQL instance locally. So it says we'll open an Explorer on a local port. So it won't
Nice.
sync with Amplify. So if we have time, I could show it to you, and it's actually pretty cool. Just for fun, maybe. Actually, well, I was gonna say I could log into my AWS account and show everyone.
You can show us all your private and secret projects.
Yeah,
That's new stuff
exactly.
coming.
I tend to leak a lot of things when I stream, so I have done that. So I do want to be careful. Okay, so let's give it a second. You can see now we have a login interface here, so we can create an account using username and password.
So yeah, people who maybe have just joined, this is not logging into AWS, it's logging into the app that Matt is creating. So your app, if you're doing a to-do list, shopping list, recipes, blog posts, you can have login for yours quite easily.
Yes, and right after I show everyone authentication, we're going to deploy it, and then I want to share the app with everyone. So right now we're just building all sorts of things in AWS. It sort of tells you what it's doing. It's, you see references to Cognito and IAM and functions and all sorts of stuff. So you don't need to be super concerned about it. It's building this for us. And then the last is going to be deploying this in Amplify.
So yeah, it'll work locally, but deploy on Amplify means you all can actually have access to it as well.
Exactly. So this is gonna be pretty cool, and then we can make some edits if we want. We can change different things.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I guess where do folks sort of deploy their apps today? Like, are you using Heroku, or
That's a good
there's
question. Yeah.
like Netlify, there's Google.
That's very true. So yeah, everyone, let us know in the chat where you host your apps. If I'm honest, I've been moving away from Azure, GCP, and AWS to our managed Kubernetes on DigitalOcean.
Oh wow,
So
I know DigitalOcean.
Yeah, so I've been using that quite a lot, although Amplify is definitely piquing my interest.
Yeah,
So,
definitely give it a try.
the one thing I really love about the Kubernetes is I can tie it in with GitHub Actions really easily. I can run everything locally, so it's just offline, local. Yes, the authentication with GitHub Auth, but I can mock that out and all the rest for automated testing and offline use. But I can run everything locally. But Amplify sounds really interesting. So that's, again, I think the deciding factor might be the pricing. So what I love about DigitalOcean is I can host the Kubernetes cluster. It costs me like, I don't know, $15 a month with the load balance and all the rest. But if I put one app on there or 20 apps on there, it costs me the same. Obviously, if those apps get really busy, then it's different. But if they're not busy and I'm using a minimum amount of resource of the server, then I can do that. So yeah, quite interesting. Okay, we've got some answers here. We've got Netlify front end from Tyler, and then back end on Heroku. Hitesh says Vercel. I've never used Vercel, but I hear a lot of people talk about it.
Vercel is so popular. You should definitely check Vercel out. Vercel, I think, has exploded in the last like 2 years. I'd say Vercel would be the most similar to Amplify hosting. So
interesting. Okay.
Well, so Vercel created Next, and I think Next got really popular. And Next is another great open source project.
Yes, I love Next.
So just real quick, since I want to take advantage of this has finished. So we have built everything in the cloud. So now locally, I'm going to create an account. So I'll just use kind of my handle here. Sorry, I need to hit create account. So I will I guess I don't have a good email. Actually, you know what? I could there's those email generator sites, right?
Have you ever? What I do for email? I just use my email.
Oh, well, I don't want everyone to
of course,
get spammed. This is a cool trick, I guess. So you can like copy this. I don't know if it will go through a spam filter, but so if I put that in, create account. So now it's going to give me a code. So again, Amplify has sort of built all this logic for me, and you can customize it. You can do it over text. So I already got the email from this funny site, and the code is right here. And you can customize that email. So now I'm going to put the code in. It is going to confirm, and now I should be back to the app. So now it is behind authentication. So it says, welcome Auerbach, sign out. I can add another one, testing again, and hit create, and we'll see that. So now let's do the final step, which should be a little more interactive, is let's add hosting. So again, we use the same kind of construct of Amplify add, see what, like we did Amplify add auth, add API. We're now going to do add hosting. And this is one of the easiest ones. The other way to do this is I could have pushed this code to GitHub, which I'll do, and I'll send it to everybody. With GitHub, I could sign in with Amplify, link it to my GitHub, and it will just build like that. But another way to do it is through the CLI. So
there's a few options,
there's a few options, yeah. So Amplify does have sign in with like Bitbucket, GitHub, AWS's own GitHub. I wouldn't call it a competitor, but offering called, what is it called? Code commit. So, okay, so it's asking me how do I want to host this. So I want to host with Amplify console. It's managed hosting with custom domains, all those sort of bells and whistles. And now this will take a few moments. So what questions do people have? So right now we're just sort of hosting this app, and I'll put it in the chat. This was sort
Hitesh
of the
says,
basic.
oh, sorry, go
Yeah.
on.
No, I was just gonna say this is sort of just the basic app here. There's a lot you can add to it.
Hitesh said 10-minute mail. I don't know what that is. Is that like a service similar to
Oh,
the one
that's
being
probably a
used?
service that I used. Yeah, 10 min mail. Let's see. I don't know how those services really work. Yeah, temporary email. Yeah, that's great.
Got you.
So
Okay,
yes, I could
interesting.
have. Yeah, if you do demos, I recommend just generating an email, get the login code.
Nice. And then Guy also says, do you have examples of using Amplify in production for large scale applications and the challenges they face? This is a great question. I really like this
Yeah,
one.
that is a good one. Give me one
Okay.
second. So again, we've set up the environment. Now I'm going to do Amplify publish, which is basically like Amplify deploy. It is now going to take all of my code, send it up to AWS, put it in S3, put it behind a CDN, and it is going to deploy it for everybody. And it's using those backend resources of the hosted GraphQL instance as well as our authentication instance. So Guy asked about enterprises. So Amplify is definitely a great tool for prototyping, for if you're at a hackathon, for getting things running really quickly. We're also seeing a lot of enterprise adoption though, like larger customers and companies might want to like test out something new, right? And like really quickly get it up and running. But also for larger workloads, like a lot of AWS services actually use Amplify. I'm not sure if it's public which ones, but like a lot of the services that you use like day in and day out actually use Amplify now, which is pretty cool. So it scales really well because what's cool about Amplify is it's just using AWS under the hood. So like Cognito is used by tons of large companies. S3 is used by like large companies. So it's not like it's sort of building things. Not like we've built the service from sort of scratch, if that makes sense. We've sort of cheated by uh, using everything that AWS has already had to offer. We basically have just made it easy for people to use those services. Um, so that's kind of how I would talk about that. I'd also say like for pricing, there is so what I recommend everyone to do is there's something called AWS. I'm totally forgetting it. Activate, but I forget the one where I think it's called the founder tier. Um,
They have so many things going on here.
yeah,
I know.
but it gives you $1,000 in credits. So that
Nice.
yes, here it is. So it's called the founders tier. So you'll get $1,000 to 100,000, but you'll pretty much
Wow.
get the thousand. Um, and it's a great way to start building. Yeah, so it's $1,000 of credits for 2 years. You even can get technical support, which is cool. Um, but if you type in AWS Amplify pricing, the way it works is you basically pay for the services Amplify spins up. So Amplify itself is
Got
free.
you.
Well, because it's just an open source library. So if you're hosting, you'll basically just pay for like the S3 cost. You'll pay for the time it takes to build your app using
I
EC2.
see. Okay.
So you pay 1 penny per minute. And then this is just really the S3 cost. So you'll pay like 2 cents per gigabyte. But I mean, most apps are pretty small, right? So
Yeah.
like, yeah, like you'll barely spend maybe $1, even like a month. Um, I think they
For
give you,
static. And then what
yeah.
about is there an example of an API?
Yeah, so an example here is a startup team with 5 developers have an app that has 300 daily users. The
Okay, nice.
team basically builds twice a day. So they're basically saying it's going to cost $8 a month for this app. And they kind of talk through how they're going to get there.
That's really good.
Yeah, but if you have 10 users, it might just be like $1 a month.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So we talked about pricing. We talked about the open source program. Um, yeah. Amplify Studio is this whole new sort of product. We could probably just dedicate a whole stream to it. The idea with Studio is to make it really easy to build UI elements.
Okay.
So if you want to build like an Airbnb, I think we have a getting started guide for that. It uses Figma. So you design in Figma and then we generate or Studio generates the code from your Figma design. So that's pretty cool
And then
stuff.
is that full stack? Does it back it up with, is it just the UI or does it back it up with an API as well?
Yeah, so the API part would come from sort of what we're doing now. It would
Okay.
just use the Amplify library. So you can actually see this photo.
Oh yeah, front to back configuration. Okay.
Yeah, so like they have some sort of photo, but the text is being stored in these models. So they have an ID.
That's quite interesting. Is the
Yeah.
studio open source as well?
Studio is not open source because it is essentially like a backend AWS service.
Okay.
But all of our libraries are. We actually have a new UI component which is all open source. So if you type in GitHub Amplify UI. So this is one of our newer initiatives. We have our own documentation site for it. This is let's see what happens with this. Yeah, and like I was talking about, it has these cloud connected components, so it makes it really easy for sign in.
Nice.
I think it's struggling with creating the React build to send to Amplify.
Thanks, Ricardo. Thanks for stopping in. Popping in.
Hey, Ricardo. What I might do in the meantime is I might create this on GitHub and then sync that way so that it can
Okay.
it can do the build. That way I kind of show everyone both ways to do this.
Sounds good. We've got time. We're going for an hour.
Yeah.
If you're able to go on 30 minutes, that'd be good.
Yeah. We're kind of at the last part, which is just deploying.
Okay, no worries. We've got some more things going on in the chat as well. Carl says, you see, once again, you see when cloud dev done right, it's not that expensive. But the approach of lift and shift for apps that have grown over the years from on-prem to cloud is so expensive. Yeah, cloud's definitely getting more and more popular and lots simplified as well, which is good. Sabrina's at work. Sabrina, thanks for having us on at work. Hopefully you don't get into trouble. We talk quietly so no one else hears. But I'm sure you got headphones on. Yeah. Hitesha's
Okay,
going to be back shortly. Okay.
Let me show everyone the Amplify console. Give me a second to sign in. Okay. Here.
What's the weather like in Bali? Hot, hot, hot.
Yeah, beautiful.
Ah, so good. Yeah, really good.
Okay, I'm going to type in Amplify.
Oh, by the way, we can't see what you're typing in. I guess you're using different features on? Okay.
Yes, it's right here. I just wanted to make sure nothing crazy was
Private, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Just checking.
Yes. Okay, so now I'm going to create a GitHub repo and I will share that with everybody. I will call this. Oh, and let me find. So this is the app that it built. So what's cool, by the way, is I haven't logged into the console yet, right? This has all been from the CLI. So you can see our backends here. You can see the API was added. You can see authentication was created. And you can see that it is trying to deploy the front end. But I think I have a way to make that faster. So I'm going to type in Amplify open source demo, make it public. So create the repository. And then I will move this tab over. So I'm just going to create the repo for everybody. So I will add remote.
Git remote. It's so funny. I struggled with that for so long. And when I made some YouTube videos on it, it just really stuck in my mind. But still, even after doing the YouTube videos, someone came up with some even better shortcuts, which was brilliant. So I learned some tricks on that too.
Oh, I'm sure there are. Okay, so I just put the GitHub repo if everyone wants to see the code we're using. So what I'm going to do now is I should be able to add environment name. We can call it prod. But you know what? I think because let me just see this. I think because I started with the CLI, it's not going to let me connect it to GitHub.
Okay, no worries. But it's possible. So people can deploy via GitHub.
Yes. Yes.
Or via the CLI.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just having a hard time. Oh, okay. There we go. It finally built over here. So now it's deploying. So at least I got that on GitHub. So here, now everyone can see it's actually building since it finally got the code. So it is creating a domain for me, and it looks like it's done. So it gives you the URL. And I also want to show AppSync. I think AppSync's interesting. Okay, so here's the app. So Eddie, you should create an account and you should log in and you should hopefully see my to-dos, and everyone else. Can I post it in the private chat for you to send to everyone?
Yeah, do it. So let me copy link address.
Yeah, so create account. You'll have to do the email thing. And then what I'm going to do is I also want to show everyone AppSync. I think AppSync's really cool as well.
And remind us what AppSync is.
AppSync is hosted GraphQL. So I guess the one thing with this demo I didn't really make clear is we're also using another open source project from Facebook called GraphQL. GraphQL is sort of an alternative to a REST API. So it makes it, I think, really easy to build APIs. You basically create a schema, you tell it the data you want, and then it sort of configures everything. When I've had to build APIs, I've had to use, like you can use Node. I usually used Python and Flask. That was like my go-to. And I don't know, there's still like a lot of logic you had to do. You'd write like the decorators, you'd write all the endpoints, you'd write the business logic to return. You'd have to connect to a database. This uses it. This creates a database. This creates the models. This does all the work for you. So I'm in AppSync now, and there's this cool thing called, it's like the Explorer here. So it shows me the different things I can query for. So I can get all the to-dos. So just like, so here, I'm actually going to log in, which should use my same login that I created locally, I believe.
And I've logged in, and
yes.
I have the to-dos that you have.
You do. So why don't you add one and watch how it will just update on my screen without having to refresh, or it should.
So you don't have to refresh it.
Maybe I have to.
Sockets?
Did you try it?
I've done it just now. Yeah.
Oh. Maybe I didn't set up the subscription part. Okay, you can. Okay. Yeah. So that's part of like using a GraphQL subscription. It's basically like listening for that. So we could add that. But yeah, so here's Eddie's, and then I could almost like try to say hello, Eddie. But everyone should create an account, and anyone who's watching, I see you posted it.
I did, yeah.
There we go. Now you see hello, Eddie. Someone in your chat, by the way, has a wrench next to them. I've never seen that.
Yeah, that means they're a mod. Who's that? That's Carl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it means they're a mod. They can if anyone's being cheeky or naughty, they
Yes.
can give them a.
That's funny. So one thing I want to talk to. So you might ask, how is it that we're getting this data here? So I like to look at the network tab, and I want to refresh, and we should see the call to GraphQL here. And I see it. Do you see it? Does everyone see it, Eddie?
We do. It's a bit small, but we can.
Okay,
We can
it's a
kind
bit
of, yeah,
small.
see
Can I
it.
make this bigger? Okay.
Yeah.
So it made a call to GraphQL, and it basically sent it sent a query, and it said list to-dos. And what the server responded with is basically a JSON object of all the to-dos here. And that same object is what I'm going to do in sort of the Explorer. So this is like an API Explorer. So if I click this button, it's basically the same thing as a client making a call to AppSync. So I should see them all here. Oh, I think I'm asking. Whoops. Why won't it let me uncheck that? I'm using my API key.
You got a yes from Carl. I think that was on the AppSync comment. Carl, let us know.
Actually,
Carl's
don't.
got a bad
Oh,
one.
get to do. Sorry, I didn't give it a specific. I didn't pass the ID of a to do. That's why that didn't work. But if I list all of
Okay,
them,
got you.
so let's not. How do I get this? I do not want to list the to dos. I want to. Here we go. Okay, so here are the 3 to dos now. Let's also show the name. So now I should see the name of all of them. So see, and then the description too. So this is just showing you what like an API Explorer does. Let's see. Has anyone logged in and added a to do into our app? Doesn't look like it.
Not yet. I think some people were trying. Guy
You
was
would
asking
have to, yeah. Make sure you hit create account first, and you enter the code with your email. But yeah. So we completed the demo. So that's always exciting. If you go into the AWS console for Amplify, you can see the app. And like I said, you can connect it with GitHub. And let's just say you have someone who makes a pull request, it will auto kick off a new build for you, and it will deploy it. There's some other kind of bells and whistles you can do. You can add environment variables. You can add different staging branches. So it's saying the deployment is complete. And it will sort of show me the deploy here. Give me the URL. You can create your own domain. So yeah, that's kind of the basics. And then if you want to contribute to Amplify, let's say you want to help us build, a UI library in Vue for authentication, you can go to our UI library, and we have a contributor file, and you can kind of read how you can get involved. So like I said, I've been focused on the Amplify team on working with our contributors. So that's kind of the idea behind our contributing site. And we're giving out a $25 AWS credit for any PR you submit. So we kind of have this thing here. And you also get a contributor role in our Discord.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's quite interesting. We stole that idea for ours.
Someone added.
You've got some additions, yes, or things to do.
Someone's washing clothes. Let's see. Where's the app?
We've got a few. We've got washing clothes.
JSON, hi YouTube. Okay, cool.
Is it possible to show who created it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's funny. I was thinking about
not
that.
Their email, but their username maybe.
Yeah. So
or name or something.
So the way I would think about that first is, I would look in the yes. I mean, you definitely can do it.
We don't have to do it now. It's fine. I'm conscious of time as well.
No, yeah, exactly. You definitely can do it. The way I would get started to figure that out is, I would go into AppSync, and I would go to that API Explorer and just see if there's the right foreign key relationship. But yes, that is definitely something you can do. And like, there's a lot that we can add. Like, we could add sign in with Facebook pretty simply. you would want to do amplify update auth. So that's kind of the cool part, is you can constantly update your backend. So if I type amplify update auth, it should now ask me questions as to what I want to update. So we'll give that a second. So
yeah, if you can bring the data
yeah.
back, data's there, right? So we're going to bring it back with GraphQL.
Yep.
So I got you're going to say.
Yeah. So it's not. I'd have to. The way we set it up in the demo, it's not logging who created it, but
Oh, I
it'd be
see.
as simple.
Okay.
It'd be as simple as updating the schema, and adding a sort of. Let's see. Where's my to do? Yeah, to do. It would just be like adding a user. It would just be logging that. Well, cool. So also our docs is another sort of aspect of the product I've been focused on. So you can see all of our different libraries. So you could add authentication was a big one we talked about, but there's all sort of other things. You could add storage. You could add push notifications, all sorts of things. Here's the API. So I was talking, if you want to read more about subscribing to data,
Okay.
that's how you'd find out if something's changed, and you can update it in real time. Also the command, so I ran amplify update auth. So it's asking me, what do I want to do? So if I click social provider, it will ask me questions around, so I have to give it my redirect URL as to after they've signed in with Google, like where should I send them? But it will ask me questions around like Google and Facebook. So that makes it really easy to set up there. Let's see, has anyone else added anything?
Give me some ideas for our projects as well. So I'm just making some notes. We've got this. We do these daily stand-up videos in our Discord. We haven't done it for a couple of days actually. People just say they kind of what they did yesterday, what they did today, any buckets, and it's just on their phone. Really great way to practice speaking to a camera and all the rest. But on Discord, we've got a limit of 8 megs, and it's a real pain because if you record 30 seconds on your phone, it's usually like 100 megs. You're shooting 4K, 60 frames a second.
Yep.
So I just wanted to try using AWS's S3 client to host on DigitalOcean's Spaces, which is like S3 equivalent. And so I wrote a small app for that. I want to deploy it hopefully this week, if not the worst case next week. And yeah, you've given me some ideas on this as well. So
yeah,
I'm making some notes.
Let me show you real quick. So if you were to host that app, let's say you already have the whole app built and it's in GitHub. What you would do is you would click new app, and you could click host a web app, and then now you get the page that asks you, do you want to connect it? So you could click GitHub. It should have my GitHub. Let's see what it does. Ooh, yeah, so it's asking GitHub, and then it's loading, and then these are all my repositories. So you would just click it, and you would click next, and it would just pull all the code and it would build it for you. Really similar to like how Netlify does it. Actually, I don't know if DigitalOcean does this. But yeah, I would give it a try, Eddie, because it makes it really simple.
Yeah, I'll definitely have a play. I might do that on a Discord call next week. The great thing is, in Bali, we finally got some friends from London coming to visit. Well, Sarah's friends coming to visit. But that means for 2 weeks, she's going to be busy, which means I plan to do lots of Discord calls and just share my screen while I'm working on stuff, so you all can help me fix all the things I break. But yes, so it's going to be a fun 2 weeks starting from next week.
This is another example, by the way, a real-time canvas. So if you want to build a doodle competitor,
oh nice,
you can kind of follow along. So it's using AppSync again. So that's a fun one. You guys can follow along. But cool. Yeah, I guess we have what, like 10 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, we can always finish early, but we finish a bit late. We'll see how the chat and the questions are going. But that's a great demo. We covered how to build and deploy an app on Amplify. We covered the AWS Amplify open source program, which is awesome. How you'll get a Discord. Yeah, please do. We've got a Discord. You got a Discord role in the AWS
Yes.
Amplify community. What else? We talked about getting free credit for hosting on AWS.
Yes.
And we spoke about something else. I can't remember what it was, but lots of things. So hopefully it's been valuable. I know I've learned a lot. So big shout out to Matt for taking the time to go through it with us, and shout out to everyone who is watching. Thank you so much for supporting and engaging in the chat as well. Any questions? Now is the time to ask, and there are no stupid questions. So please ask anything related to tech or careers. Keep it in that focus. Open source. Anything like that. What challenges have you all got at the moment, or fears or concerns? Maybe we can help with that. Let us know.
What else was I going to say? Yeah, we did cover a lot actually, even though it was kind of slow.
Slow to start, and then we kind of got moving. So
I remembered my question. So yes. I thought it would be cool to build a Discord bot that auto assigns the contributor role by when someone joins their server, they sign in with GitHub. We basically use the GitHub API to take their username and see if they've made any commits in our library, and then apply it using the Discord API.
I have a difficulty with that. I've tried to do something similar. Difficulty is the Discord username is not usually the same as their GitHub username. So how can you tie them together? That's a challenge that we have as well.
Yeah. I guess you would have a bot that says you signed into Discord, and it would say sign in with GitHub. So you locally have to create a mapping of Discord username to GitHub username. I think it could be possible, but it's not as simple as I thought.
Yeah. We do have some questions, by the way.
Yeah, someone actually asked in a to-do about my headphones. This is a Corsair. I don't know the model, but I could look it up. But yeah, it's like the standard Corsair gaming headset.
Nice.
What are the questions?
Spot. So I'll bring them up on the screen. We have Renil, if I pronounced it right. How do I make changes to the configuration if I make some errors? Amplify add API.
So you could type we could even try it. You could type Amplify update API. So that's another command, and should ask us some questions around what changes you want to make. Whoops.
Yeah, so everything will be done via the API. They shouldn't change any config in any hidden folders or anything.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's a very important point. You want to do everything from the CLI. You don't want to make your own changes. So I think I've split this into two. So here we go. So I said Amplify update. So if I want to continue using GraphQL, I'd click GraphQL. And then Amplify is also a code generator. So yeah, you don't want to start touching sort of too much. Is Twitter the best place to reach Mark? They mean Matt.
Yeah, Matt. Sorry. So
That's funny.
It's because it's your. I think it's your username.
Yeah. I'd say Twitter's a good place to reach me. I'll put my Twitter in here, but we also do have an Amplify Discord. So let me actually put that in. So I got us this special URL. So sorry, it's discord.gg/amplify. So I think that's pretty cool. So if you go to that, it will automatically pull up our kind of an open invite to everybody. And yeah, we have 1,500 people online right now, which is pretty cool.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's very cool.
Very cool. So that's our Discord. We have the office hours every Thursday at I always forget the time. I think it's at like 1 p.m. Eastern, but I have to check. But yeah, so for your question, how to update the API, so now it's sort of asking us all the things we want to edit. So if you want to like authenticate with Cognito user pool or IAM or just use an API key, you can sort of start making those changes. But I'm going to cancel that.
Nice. That sounds good. So okay, don't edit any hidden auto-generated files in the project, so we'll get overwritten. We also have, what's the link for real-time canvas doodle tutorial? Great stream, by the way. Thank you, Jason.
Yes. Amplify, that's a good question. I don't real-time canvas doodle. Here it is. It is in the AWS samples folder. This was something that Natter created. Do you know who Natter is, Eddie?
I do, yes.
Yeah, he's quite well known.
Yeah. Do you want to drop that link in the private chat, and I can share it as well?
Yeah, this is a cool one. I actually maybe should have done this for our demo, but given my computer, it might have.
Yes.
I'll put it to you in the private chat.
Yeah, please do.
But this is something that Natter created, I believe.
That's
so
pretty
Natter
cool.
used to be a DA, a developer advocate on the team. And if you just Google real-time collaborative drawing with GraphQL and AppSync, Natter created this.
And Nada is currently in, I saw in an open source conference in Africa, I think.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, Natter's pretty cool. Everyone should follow him. But yeah, he's in Africa. Yeah, I was thinking of going to that conference actually, but I didn't make it there.
Yeah, me also. What conferences do you have coming up? There is KubeCon in Spain coming up.
Yes, I saw that.
In May, I think. Mid-May. I'm going to try and possibly go to that.
Really?
We might just make it back in time is the plan. I'll see if I can get...
Wow.
Does AWS want to sponsor us to go? Maybe we can...
Maybe we can all go, yeah. I was looking at that conference. I'm also looking at JS Open World.
What's that one?
Which is an open source conference around... OpenJS World.
Okay.
They do have dates for 2022, so let me...
I will just bring that up as well.
It is in the US, I believe.
Okay. That's really far. I suppose Asia's
yeah,
far.
I think it's in Austin. Wait, what does it just say? OpenJS World. Yeah, 2022. Yeah, here it is. It's in June and it is in Austin, Texas. But yeah, this is supposed to be a good open source conference around front end. So I am hoping to be there.
I might just bring it up in the browser and have a look.
Yeah, take a look at that one. That would be a good one. Otherwise, one of the best open source conferences that I will definitely try to be at next year is All Things Open. Have you ever been?
All Things Open. That rings a bell. I read so many. I can't even remember.
I was on a panel and spoke at that one earlier this fall. But yeah, this one's really cool. All Things Open.
And where is this one based? Oh, it's in the US as well.
It's in the US as well. It's a great one. If you know the MLH folks, like they're there. They sponsored it. So you can see DigitalOcean sponsored it, AWS sponsored it, Google.
Oh yeah. Ali was there as well.
Yeah, she was the keynote speaker, yeah. And Natter.
Nice.
Natter was
there.
Natter
was there as well.
Natter, so
wow.
All the cool kids are there.
Nice. Kushal, if I pronounce your name right. I want to use AWS Amplify and other AWS features, but can't, so I don't have a credit card yet. Is there any way to do so?
Yeah.
Good question.
That is one of the, sadly, one of the toughest things about AWS is you do need an account for most of the services, and you do need some sort of debit or credit card. Although it won't charge you, I think for compliance or whatnot, they do require a credit card. But yeah, that one's hard. I think I have to think on that, how to get around that.
It is challenging though, because I know that in all my YouTube videos and live streams, I have a DigitalOcean affiliate link, and it's affiliates. If someone spends a certain amount, I get some a small portion of that. But the benefit of it is they get $150 for signing up on that link. And I get nothing. They get $150.
Right.
But they have to have a card to sign up.
Yeah.
So they can't even just use that $150 and then not use it again just to play, unfortunately.
Yeah, this comes up a lot. A lot of people ask me. Unfortunately, it's really tough. And similar to your thing, there is a free tier. So even if you just had a credit card, you wouldn't even get billed because a lot of the services have a free tier usage. So yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I could try to figure it out. Yeah.
I think most hostings need that or require that for whatever reason. So I think it's not specific to AWS was the point I guess I was trying to make, but it's they all have that. I think some of maybe the other ones, maybe Heroku, you don't need to, but in terms of the bigger players, I think you do. So yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah.
If you think of anything though, Matt, tweet
I
it.
will.
Let us
I
know.
will. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, that part is tough. There used to be some service called Quick Labs. I actually don't know if they're still around. That Yeah, I don't know a ton. I have to look into this, but essentially they had like different courses you could take. Yeah, it looks like they're not around, but you wouldn't need a AWS account. They like
Okay,
would basically create an AWS account for you, and then they would like take it down. And you didn't need a credit card. But
got
that was
you.
from a while ago.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for all the questions. I'm conscious of Matt's time. We've been going for an hour and a half, and yeah, it's coming up to Tuesday for me already, so I need to get some
Yeah.
rest. But thank you all so much for joining. If you do have any more questions, you can ask in our Discord. You can reach out to Matt. We have got a few options as well. And we look forward to hearing how your projects have gone and where you're hosting them and what you've tried. I haven't tried. I saw someone commented, Eddie uses Next.js, but hasn't used Vercel yet. So maybe I need to have a
You
play
should
with
try
that instead.
Vercel for
Yeah.
sure.
I went through a phase of liking Firebase, but then that bit me really hard. So I was prototyping, lots of hackathons, lots of fun projects, just little prototypes all over the place. Loved it how it was rapid development, rapid deployment. Okay, got a real project, spent like a month prototyping the client, like, I want it. Okay. I said, okay, before we build it any further, I want to go back, write lots of automated testing, and then we can refactor it. Oh my God, was that a mission? You can't automate the test Firebase project because it doesn't use JSON. It actually uses proprietary weird data. So you can't do it offline. You can't do automated testing without actually communicating and hammering their services. It was a disaster. So yeah, I've been a bit nervous about using some various projects because that bit me really hard. They do that.
You sound salty.
I do. That does
Yeah.
have like it's really good for prototyping hackathons, but you're investing time learning something that you won't use in a real project.
Yeah.
They do have a you can download this like Firebase Java app, which like mocks out their backend, but
Oh,
it's not.
geez.
It's a simulator, so we tried that, and then it would work locally, test would pass, and you deploy it, and something wouldn't quite
Just
work.
yeah.
So I was like, it's a simulator. Or an emulator. Sorry, I want the real thing locally, sort of thing. So or what I say locally on the GitHub Action or whatever you're running it. So yeah, I was that bit's quite hard. So I haven't used that since.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so just in the last second here, Amplify is pretty similar to Firebase, but I would say the big difference is, or actually, I don't know Firebase well enough to speak to it, but I wouldn't be concerned about you trying to scale up with Amplify because it uses a lot of those services I talked
Yeah.
about. So it's really not that different than you just using AWS, but that can happen. So that's a bummer.
Yeah, no, but I think that's good. I think it's Amplify has been smart in that it's given that layer of abstraction, but like you said, it's still using Cognito underneath, right? It's not using
Exactly.
something else. It's still the same services, which I think is really, really smart, and it's open source as well. Again, something that Firebase isn't, and so forth. So sorry for any Firebase people who like that out there. It is great for prototyping and so forth, but yeah. Automated testing really made it very, very hard. So, and that's important in your projects. So, yeah, no, that sounds interesting. Matt, thank you so much again for the session. I really, really enjoyed it. And everyone, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and follow Matt on Twitter as well. Link is in the description
Thank
below.
you.
And
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. We'll definitely do something again.
awesome. I look forward to it. Maybe we could,
Yeah.
I think maybe next time, part 2, we could maybe get one of the Eddie Hub projects and deploy it with
Yeah.
Amplify because they'll
That could be
be
fun.
familiar with that. And we could probably pick 2 different spectrums, like one that's just maybe like a front end, quite simple, get it going really quickly. And then maybe one that's got maybe a back end with it as well, just to see how that goes, just to see too. So thank you, everyone. Sabrina says, got to go, but appreciate it all. Thank you so much. Have a great day, Sabrina. And Matt, have a great day as well. I know it's morning
just
for you.
starting.
Perfect. Matt, I'm going to close the stream. If you don't mind staying on for 30 more seconds, I want to thank you privately as well. Everyone, have a great week.
See you, everyone.
Bye.